I'm now joined in the studio by Diana Cooper-Richet. She's a historian who's written a book about the history of Britons in France. Hello, thank you very much for coming in. Now, how many Brits live in France, and are they mostly students, workers, or old age pensioners?
I think there are about 400,000 Britons living in France. Probably about 70,000 are pensioners, retired people. In the 19th century, people who came from Britain to France were from the middle classes. They were wealthy people. They'd come for leisurely reasons. But now they're modest people with a modest income, and they come to France because they want to buy a house that they can't buy in Britain.
So now with Brexit, is one of their concerns then the value of the pound, if they're getting their retirement money in pounds?
They're very worried about the value and the collapse, the possible collapse of the pound, because their pensions will collapse also. And they're also very afraid, I think, about what Brexit can bring concerning the possibility of buying a house now in France, the possibility of working in France. Lots of them are working. They're not all pensioners, so they want to work in France. And they wonder if they'll continue to have European citizenship. So they're really worried about that kind of thing. They're also very worried about the National Health Service. Will Social Security continue? They're worried about all those sort of practical things.
Can't many of them apply, though, for French citizenship? We've seen a massive spike in demand for French passports.
They have two solutions. Either go back to Britain. But if they go back to Britain and they've been living 15 years abroad, they won't be able to vote. So they're sort of half, part citizens. If they stay in France and they choose to become French, they'll have to have lived at least 15 consecutive years in France, and they'll have to speak French correctly and have some notions of French culture, which is not always the case, because, British people tend to group and live together, and with not always that much contact with the French population.
Speaking of grouping, are there associations that British people living in France can go to if they're wondering what to do next, what their options are?
Yes, there are. There's a blog called Pensioners Debout Stand Up, and the pensioners there try and find advice, and they give ideas. And there are also newspapers in English published in France, like the Dordogne Bugle, where they exchange ideas. And then there's the Franco-British Chamber of Commerce, where people, suggest different solutions to the British in France. But they're all very worried, that's a certainty.
Well, hopefully they can at least check out some of these options and be reassured.
Well, one of the slogans is carry on, keep calm, which reminds us of the Second World War slogan. So that's what they keep to at the moment.
Keep calm and carry on. That's very right. British. Thank you very much indeed, Diana Cooper-Richet, for coming in.
Thank you.